Hello, and welcome to a presentation on increasing access to individuals with intellectual disabilities. According to the AAID website, intellectual disability is characterized by significant limitations in both intellectual functioning and in adaptive behavior. Limitations in mental functioning affect skills like communicating, taking care of him or herself, and social skills. They can cause an individual to learn and develop at a much slower rate than the typical child. There are many different causes for intellectual disability. Some include genetic conditions, problems during pregnancy, problems at birth, and other health issues. In fact, it's the most common developmental disability. Approximately 6.5 million people have an intellectual disability, most of which originates before the age of 18. More than 545,000 children have an intellectual disability and receive special education services in our public schools and private schools as well. Hallmarks of an intellectual disability in children. Some children experience delays in sitting up, crawling, or walking. Some might have delays in speech or difficulty speaking, or remembering things. They might also experience difficulty understanding and following social rules. Some children might show difficulty analyzing cause and effect relationships, action and consequence relationships, especially those relative to their social life. They might also show difficulty thinking logically. In order to diagnose an individual with an intellectual disability, their intellectual and adaptive functioning must be assessed in 3 domains: conceptual skills, like literacy, self-direction, concepts of number, money, and time; social skills, like interpersonal skills, social responsibility, self-esteem, guiltability, naivete; social problem-solving, following rules, obeying laws, avoiding being victimized; and practical skills, like activities of daily living, personal care, occupational skills, use of money, safety, healthcare, travel, transportation, schedules, routines, and use of the telephone. In order to get an ID diagnosis, one's IQ score must be 70 or below and present significant deficits in adaptive functioning. There are different degrees of intellectual disability: mild, moderate, severe, and profound. There are resources available to those who are affected by intellectual disability: early intervention for babies and children born birth to 3 years old, special education programs offered for school-age children ages 3 to 21, and transition planning for those approaching adulthood, especially those who need assistance with life skills. Intellectual disabilities and speech and language complications. There are 2 types of language: receptive language and expressive language. Receptive language is the way we hear and understand language. It involves attention, listening, and processing the message in order to gain information. Areas that use receptive language skills are attention, receptive vocabulary, following directions, and understanding questions. Expressive language is speaking or writing the language. It describes how a person communicates their wants and needs. It usually uses both verbal and nonverbal communication skills. Those skills include facial expressions, gestures, vocabulary, semantics, morphology, and syntax. Semantics are word and sentence meanings. Morphology and syntax are usually grammar rules. The following is a chart that compares language development in normally developing children compared to those with an intellectual disability. The chart looks at the different types of language development, including pre-linguistic development, vocal development, social communicative development, semantic development, phonological development, early grammar, and pragmatic development. Children with ID typically display delays in the different types of language development. For instance, when a normally developing child is producing sounds like cooing and babbling, those children with ID have delays in sound production. So what does this mean for individuals with an intellectual disability? Well, adults and children with ID might require assistance with understanding and following directions, understanding and using written and oral language, learning new information, understanding detailed information, and completing certain tasks. Let's take a look. Meet Josie's student. Josie is an 8-year-old second grade student. She has one-on-one classroom support, usually with a paraprofessional. Since she was in kindergarten, she received special education and speech-language services. When she was last tested, her IQ was 65. She usually displays low motivation, deficits in memory, mild inappropriate behavior in social contexts, poor social skills, deficits in practical everyday skills. Currently, she's working at a second semester kindergarten level, reading independently at a DRA 2. She has deficits in prior knowledge, vocabulary, pragmatic language, and semantic language. She also has difficulty recalling information. Her memory recall is unreliable, and following multi-subject directions. The current interventions that Josie is given include life skills curriculum, where she learns practical things like counting, linear measurement, counting money, using effective communication such as asking for help or for directions. We use reinforcement with her sight words and basic reading skills, such as decoding CVC words and CVCE words. We also use Math Magician, which is a website for math fact fluency drill, and real-world applications for money, usually during learning centers. At times, we also integrate role-playing for communication and social scenarios, so she has exposure to different communication types and situations that might occur in her everyday life. My proposal for intervention revision would tackle things that I know Josie has difficulty with. For example, she has difficulty expressing herself verbally, which usually affects her social interactions. Her expressive communication deficits, usually like recalling information and using effective pragmatic language, also hinder her academically. My goal would be to incorporate more real-life applications that focus more on verbal expression to build and practice her semantic and pragmatic language. For example, in order to practice the language skills and mathematical reasoning skills, we would use a cafe center or supermarket center by creating math centers for these. In here, we would also be practicing counting money, so there would be numeracy skills and language skills. She would have to practice the language at each, like, welcome to the Borgia Cafe, I'll be your server, may I take your order? Or, if she were in a supermarket, welcome to the Borgia Market, be sure to check out our sales for today, Do you have any coupons? Here's your receipt. Thank you for shopping. Social stories on the social comprehension web app on the iPad can also be used to practice social scenarios, and this would be helpful to her to preview scenarios that she might experience with her peers. The potential results of my revisions would most likely be that the social stories practice proved to be most beneficial. Her pragmatic language skills improved, and the real-life application and utilization of situational vocabulary needed to be closely monitored. And this is mostly because she needs that constant coaching and prompting to be able to use the language efficiently. Her memory recall of situational vocabulary is highly unreliable. Looking at the results and the implications of them, I would say the results might indicate more growth if the interventions were used for a longer period of time. Josie's student would show growth in the area of social pragmatic language through studying social stories on the iPad more frequently. Others in the impacted group would benefit from the use of technology to practice different social situations because they would learn what to expect in each interaction. Others would benefit from the use of real-life applications because it would build experience for the students who maybe don't have access to the real situations. And these applications also offer other life skills. References. Thank you for watching.